Willkommen in einem anderen aufregendes video. Welcome to yet another exciting video. In this case, a video which looks at a number of Star Trek episodes, the original series or generation, to identify historical references which can be used to determine the original history of the Star Trek universe. Special thanks to the transcripts which can be found on the Geschichte site. The episode order of this video the episode order that I'm using is the production order. Episodes 48 to 53 are covered in this video. In order to understand the development of the history, or vision, we need to understand the episodes in the order they were written. While I'm uncertain of the exact writing order, the production order is about as close as I can confirm. The episode order, as broadcast, is also included. When Gene Roddenberry created Star Trek back in 1966, he had a vision which remained basically consistent over the following 3 years. The animated series and early movies retained this consistency in the most part. When The Next Generation was released in 1987, Gene's vision had changed and the past needed to change in order to be consistent with this new vision. This video series will look at the original vision of Star Trek, starting with the earlier source material. Any historical facts from later sources which contradict the earlier references will be assumed to be in error or not used. Minor changes in nomenclature can obviously be excused. The Immunity Syndrome is the 18th episode of the second season. It was the 48th episode produced. Its stardate is 4307.1 and its original air date was the 19th of January 1968. Starbase 6 is mentioned, which, as we've earlier ascertained, actually means it's a planet. This is the first time Starbase 6 is mentioned, so I assumed the Enterprise is in a new sector of the Federation, probably on the side furthest away from the Romulans. Woohoo! Captain, there is a message from Starbase 6, heavy interference. All I get is intrepid and what sounds like a sector coordinate. Spock replies, interesting, no indication of magnetic storms in this sector. Kirk then replies, Mr. Chekhov, laying a course for Starbase 6, ahead warp factor 5. I'm still looking forward to a nice period of rest and relaxation on some lovely, gazes at Yeoman, planet. The USS Intrepid is a Federation starship manned, or possibly Vulcaned, by Vulcans. McCoy, the Intrepid is manned by Vulcans, isn't it? We discover a new planet. Gamma 7A is an inhabited system which was killed by the anti-life single-cell organism. It had a population of billions, and it's unclear if they were humans or aliens, but based on the population, most likely alien. They were almost certainly Federation. Chekhov, Captain, I've just completed a full long-range scan of Gamma 7A system. It is dead. Kirk replies, dead? It's a fourth magnitude sun. There are billions of inhabitants there. Chekhov replies, it is dead. The Vulcans can sense the death of many fellow Vulcans from interstellar distances, sort of like what occurs in Star Wars with the Force. Spock states, I sensed it die. McCoy, but I thought you had to be in physical contact with the subject before. Spock then interrupts. Doctor, even I, a half-Vulcan, could hear the death screams of 400 Vulcan minds crying out over the distance between us. This episode shows an alien single-cell zone of darkness or death which has invaded the galaxy and destroyed a starship and an entire inhabited Federation system. It has probably destroyed a lot more on its way to the Federation. How did it get past the galactic barrier? Kirk states, Captain Personal Log, Stardate 4309.2, we have established that the thing which destroyed the USS Intrepid and the Gamma 7A system is an incredibly huge but simple cellular being whose energies are totally destructive to all known life. Both Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy have volunteered to go in a specially equipped shuttlecraft to penetrate the cell, find a way to destroy it and free the ship. Dr. McCoy has the medical and biological knowledge. Mr. Spock is better suited physically and emotionally to stand the stress. Both are right, both are capable, and which of my friends do I condemn to death? This is the captain. Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy, report to my quarters immediately. Kirk out. In summary, we now know there is a Starbase 6, which we know is a Federation Starfleet planet. Gamma 7A is an inhabited system which was killed by the anti-life organism. It had a population of billions, almost certainly alien and probably a member of the Federation. The USS Intrepid is a Federation starship crewed by Vulcans, and the Vulcans can sense the death of many fellow Vulcans from interstellar distances. I wonder if Star Wars copied this idea in its first movie. A Piece of the Action is the 17th episode of the second season. It was the 49th episode produced. Its stardate is 4598.0 and its original air date was 12th of January 1968. Another planet. Sigma Iotia 2 is a planet or alien planet at an early 19th century industrial state. Not a member of the Federation, but contacted before the Prime Directive was put in place. Chekhov states, approaching Sigma Iota 2, Captain. The Horizon was a ship which visited Sigma Iota 2 and left a book about organised crime behind, which impacted their civilization. This was 100 years ago, so I expect the technological development of the planet was about at the 1820s level when the Horizon visited. Omix. Hello, Captain. You're from the same outfit as the Horizon. Kirk replies, yes, unfortunately the Horizon was lost with all hands shortly after leaving your planet. We only received her radio report last month. Omix. Last month? What are you talking about? The Horizon left here over 100 years ago. It's also interesting the Federation did not have subspace communication 100 years ago, because Kirk then replies, difficult to explain. We received a report 100 years late because it was sent by conventional radio. Your system is on the outer reaches of the galaxy. They didn't have a subspace communication in those days. Well, what have we learned from this video or episode? The Prime Directive was not in effect at least 100 years ago in 2165. The Prime Directive was certainly not in effect before 2161, because that's when the Federation was formed, and I suspect it came into effect well after the formation of the Federation. The year is unknown, but maybe close to 2165, or even as late as 2259, as we'll discover in later videos. Kirk. The Horizon contact came before the Non-Interference Directive went into effect. Now, the beginning of industrialization on this planet could have been similar to Earth in 1820s, because it looks like it's 1920s and 100 years of development occurred. McCoy, what is the state of the Iotian culture before the Horizon came? Kirk replies, the beginning of industrialization. So in summary, Sigma Iota 2 is an alien planet at an early 19th century industrial state, probably about the 1920s. The Horizon was a ship which visited Sigma Iota 2 in 2155, which may have occurred during the Earth-Romulan War. As it was not visited for 100 years after this is another proof point FTL drive was in existence in 2155, otherwise how would the Horizon get to this planet? We know the closest Federation planet is 100 light years away, as the distress beacon used radio waves. So this was 100 light years beyond the Federation border in 2265, and significantly further away in 2155. By Any Other Name is the 22nd episode of the second season. It was the 50th episode produced. Its stardate was 4657.5 and its original air date was 23rd of February 1968. As normal with episodes, we start with a new planet, an unknown planet, in this case simply called Planet. I will call it Kelvin, as the human-formed Kelvins settled there at the end of the episode, but this is not its real name. The Andromeda Galaxy is dominated by the Kelvin Empire, which has sent an expedition to the Milky Way. The aliens race is very unlike humans, so probably has nothing to do with the civilization destroyed 500,000 years ago by some type of supernova, as we saw in an earlier episode. Perhaps the supernova which blew up 500,000 years ago had something to do with the rising radiation which was causing the Kelvin Empire so much trouble now. Now, I doubt it, but you never know. Rojan, who's a Kelvin, to your neighbouring galaxy which you call Andromeda. Kirk replies, Andromeda? Why? Rojan, it is our home. Rojan then states later, within 10 millennia, high radiation levels in our galaxy will make life there impossible, so the Kelvin Empire set forth ships to explore other galaxies, to search for one which our race could conquer and occupy. Kirk replies, well, sorry, the galaxy is already occupied. We encounter the galactic barrier once again. In this case, the galactic barrier damaged the Kelvin ship as it came in. No one is mentally enhanced during the incoming journey of the Kelvins, and no one is mentally enhanced as the Enterprise gets through the barrier. So perhaps this is a different type of barrier, or maybe the mental enhancement only occurs at certain spots in the barrier. Rojan states, there is an energy barrier at the rim of your galaxy. Kirk replies, yes, I know, we've been there. Rojan. We managed to break through it with great difficulty. Our ship was destroyed. We barely managed to escape in a life craft. And now we have the means to begin our journey back to Andromeda. We learn, based on Spock's mental mind probe, that the Kelvins are rather unusual creatures. Spock states, "A series of bizarre and exotic images bursting on my mind and consciousness. Colours, shapes, mathematical equations fused and blurred. I've been attempting to isolate them, but so far all I've been able to recall clearly is one image. Immense being, 100 limbs which resemble tentacles. Minds of such control and capacity that each limb is capable of performing a different function." Well, in summary, what have we discovered? We're introduced to yet another unknown planet, simply called Planet. I will call it Kelvin, as the human-formed Kelvins do eventually settle there. The Andromeda Galaxy is dominated by the Kelvin Empire, which has sent an expedition to the Milky Way. Return to Tomorrow is the 20th episode of the second season. It was the 51st episode produced. Its stardate was 4768.3 and its original air date was 9th of February 1968. Once again, we come across a ancient or a new planet with no name. It's very ancient, and I will call it Sargon. The show seems to be avoiding naming anything these days. I suppose I can't blame them. Anyway, this planet held a mighty advanced civilization which died out 500,000 years ago. 500,000 years ago, that's about the time that the Andromeda civilization died out due to the supernova. Anyway, only the mental energies of some of the original inhabitants are left. Spock states, "Captain, we are hundreds of light years past where any Earthship has ever explored." Sulu replies, "Planet dead ahead, Captain, becoming visual." Spock, "Class M planet, Captain." Kirk, "Close to Earth conditions." Spock, "With two very important exceptions. It is much older than Earth and about 500,000 years old. Its atmosphere was totally ripped away by some form of cataclysm. This planet is eventually been dead since then. Sensors detect no life of any kind." We learn that it takes 3 weeks to communicate with Starfleet from this location. Perhaps this is well beyond Federation space. And within Federation space there are FTL relays which allow for almost instantaneous communication with Starfleet. Kirk states, dictating log, "Since exploration and contact with alien intelligence is our primary mission, I've decided to risk the potential dangers and resume contact. Log entry out. How long before Starfleet receives that?" Uhuru replies, "Over 3 weeks at this distance, sir." We discovered the ancient race on the planet of Sargon built a vault 500,000 years ago when the planet was destroyed. Sargon is their leader, and that's the reason why I decided to call the planet Sargon after their leader. Spock states, "The vault was constructed almost about 500,000 years ago, about the same time the planet's surface was destroyed, if our sensor readings are accurate." The inhabitants of the planet I call Sargon were exploring the galaxy 600,000 years ago and seeded many planets. Not sure what this means. Probably it means influence the local inhabitants rather than left their settlers. Kirk states, "That's twice you referred to us as my children, Sargon. Because it is possible you are our descendants, Captain Kirk. 6,000 centuries ago, our vessels were colonising this galaxy, just as your own starships have now begun to explore the vastness. As you now leave your own seed on distant planets, so we left our seed behind us. Perhaps your own legend of an Adam and Eve were two of our travellers." Okay, based on this, I've changed my mind. Clearly, the inhabitants of Sargon did seed the galaxy, and we may very well be their descendants. So what have we discovered in this video? We come across a very ancient, previously Earth-like planet, which I will call Sargon. It is dead now. The inhabitants of Sargon explored and seeded the galaxy 600,000 years ago. Thus, we may well be their descendants. About 500,000 years ago, they destroyed their own planet and went into some kind of suspended animation. At least their mental aspects did. Patterns of Force is the 21st episode of the second season. It was the 52nd episode produced. Its stardate is 2534.0 and its original air date was 16th of February 1968. We discover a planet, Xeon, which is a highly developed, peaceful planet, not part of the Federation, and does possess space travel. Spock states, "Passing outer planet Xeon." Spock then later states, the other planet Xeon has a relatively high technology and its people are peaceful." The people of Zion do possess at least interplanetary space travel. Isaac, our warlike period ended dozens of generations ago. We came here, which is the other planet, not Zion. We, the Zions, thought we were civilizing the Ecosians. The other planet is Ecos. The Ecosians are a primitive, warlike people in a state of anarchy. Kirk states, we want the inner one, Ecos. Plot a standard orbit, Mr. Chekhov, and take us in. Spock then states, according to our records, the Ecosians are a primitive, warlike people in a state of anarchy. The Zeons came to assist the Ecosians develop. Isaac, who's one of the Zeons, when they've destroyed us here, they will attack our planet. They've used the technology we gave them. The danger is that taking life is so repugnant to our people, I'm afraid we'll go down without a struggle. But after what I saw in the street today, I think I could kill. We now discover a pivotal person, a person called John Gill, who arrived on the planet, possibly in 2263, maybe even earlier, and because of him the Nazi movement starts on Ecos. Zion had sent people to assist Ecos prior to that, but now find themselves persecuted. Their technology has now been used to create a space fleet. Isaac, who is at Zion, warlike, yes, but not vicious. That started when the Nazi movement began only a few years ago. Spock replies, that would coincide with the time of John Gill's arrival. So what have we discovered? Zion is a highly developed, peaceful planet, not part of the Federation, and possessing at least interplanetary space travel. The Ecosians, or the people of Ecos, are a primitive, warlike people in a state of anarchy. The people of Zion partially colonised Ecos. John Gill arrives possibly in 2263, and also possibly earlier, and because of him the Nazi movement starts on Ecos for some reason. The Ultimate Computer is the 24th episode of the second season. It was the 53rd episode produced. Its star date is 4720.4 and its original air date was 8th of March 1968. We are introduced to a AI. Wellesley, have you heard of the M5 Multitronic Unit? Wellesley, you have been chosen to test the M5 Jim. There will be a series of routine research and contact problems for the M5 to solve, plus navigational manoeuvres and the war game problem. If the M5 works under actual condition as well as it was under simulated tests, it will mean a revolution in space technology as great as warp drive. When your crew has been removed, the ship's engineering section will be modified to contain the computer. In this episode, we're introduced to another new planet. It is an uninhabited planet called Alpha Carina II. Spock states, the planet is Class M, Captain. Oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere, suitable for human life support. 2 major landmasses, a number of islands, life form readings. M5, a male computer voice, states, M5 reading, planet Alpha Carina II, Class M, atmosphere, oxygen, nitrogen. The Federation has 2 other starships, similar to the Enterprise, I assume, which are the Excalibur and the Lexington. Chekhov states, Captain, the M5 unit has already identified the vessels as Federation starships, Excalibur and Lexington. We're introduced to another type of starship or Federation ship. The Woden is an unmanned ore freighter. Spock states, M5 has identified her captain, the Woden, listed in Starfleet Registry as an old-style ore freighter converted to automation. No crew coming into visual range. Makes me wonder what's so special about the M5. They already have unmanned ships. But anyway, such is the plot. We're introduced to 2 more Federation starships, also similar to the Enterprise, I assume, the Hood and the Potemkin. Chekhov states the Hood and Potemkin are moving off. So in summary, in this episode, we discover a new planet, an uninhabited planet called Alpha Carina II, or possibly with life forms at least, even if they're uninhabited. The Federation has 4 other starships, I assume similar to the Enterprise, the Excalibur, Lexington, Hood and Potemkin. And so we come to a close of this video. The episode scripts can be found on the URL shown. It becomes obvious that many of the later Star Trek movies and shows do not align with the original vision of the series. This is common in real life as later historians attempt to change the past in order to justify their new beliefs in the present. Alle guten Dinge kommen zu einem Ende.